So I don't know if we should call these next 2 weekends holy or unholy, because we have The First Omen coming out next weekend, and this weekend, tonight, Immaculate comes out, which I'm gonna go see right now. Coming at you from my unlit set, which can only mean one thing. It's a come with me review. So I am going to go to the theater, go see Immaculate, and then I will come out and tell you my first impressions, first thoughts, and let you know if you should go see it this weekend, maybe. Obviously, I can't tell you what to do, but if you were thinking of maybe going to see like Ghostbusters this weekend or Immaculate and you can't really decide, maybe my review might help you decide. Or it might not. Or you could just be watching this for funsies. I don't police what you do on the internet, but I can tell you, I'm excited to see Immaculate really for one reason only. I don't have any like expectations really for the movie. I'm not excited to go see it, but I am excited to not see the trailer every single time I go to the movies now, because I feel like I've seen the trailer to this for the past like 3 months. That might be an exaggeration, but it feels like it's been a couple months that I've been watching this every time I go to the theater. So for that reason, I'm ecstatic, because that means when I go to the theater tonight, I won't be seeing the trailer for Immaculate, but I've seen it so many times, I kind of feel like I'm going to still see the trailer right before the movie. The other one I've been seeing for the past 3 months is The First Omen, which I'm positive I will probably see the trailer for tonight, because they're like, oh, if you like this movie, if you're sitting here to see this movie, you definitely want to see The First Omen. I'll be excited not to see that trailer anymore either. But other than that, I have no real expectations. It is interesting that we are getting two very similar themed movies so close together. So I am going to be watching them both very closely to see what they both bring to the table. Now, obviously with The First Omen, that's going to be its own thing. That's part of a franchise. Immaculate is standing alone, something separate. So I'm interested to see hopefully something new that it brings to the table. Obviously, we can probably assume there's going to be some commentary about religion, specifically like Christianity and Catholicism specifically. I have thoughts and feelings about that as somebody who used to have to go to church every single Sunday and no longer does. But I'll hold off and I'll just go watch the movie and see what the movie has to offer. So with that, let's go. I am even venturing out at night for this. I normally don't leave my house this late, but here we are. Immaculate follows an American nun who embarks on a new journey when she joins a remote convent in the Italian countryside. But after she arrives, she encounters strange occurrences and mysteriously winds up pregnant. Almost everyone in the convent touts it as a miracle, but Cecilia isn't so sure. Her warm welcome quickly turns into a living nightmare when she discovers her new home harbors sinister secrets and unspeakable horrors. Neon is feeding us with horror this year, starting with Immaculate, which is directed by Michael Mohan, written by Andrew Lobel, and stars Sydney Sweeney, whose production company, 50/50, was also involved in the production of the movie, which I think is super cool. You go, girl. As of me going to the theater on its opening Thursday night, Immaculate has a 5.9 out of 10 on IMDb, a 77 critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
Suffers from a touch of madness.
There's a reason I don't do these so late at night. Felt a little bit unsafe coming out of the theater getting into my car. So I just came home. I didn't want to sit in the parking lot because men. Immaculate. Where do I start? First impression immediately coming out of the theater was I felt like I missed a part of the movie. I felt like there was like a prerequisite, like short film or something that I should have watched to get some character development, because Sister Cecilia, Sydney Sweeney's character, I felt like I did not know her at all. We're literally like dropped right into the story as she is arriving in Italy and at the convent, and all we get is a smidge of backstory, and that's meant to be her entire personality, which is important in any film, don't get me wrong. I kind of feel like it's super duper important if your character is so devout that they would enter a convent. You know what I mean? Only speaking as somebody who went to a Catholic church for like 18 years, and not as somebody who has ever entered a convent or wanted to enter into a convent. I feel like that takes a certain something to decide to do that, you know what I mean? And then like I'm looking at her character and I'm like, I don't know why you're here. I don't know really your motivations other than this one story that happened to you years ago. By the way, her backstory like happened to her when she was a child. So I'm like, that's a lot of time in between that I just feel like we don't know your character. I'm not saying it had to show us her entire life, but to drop us in just like that, and as soon as she gets to the convent, shit starts happening. So I feel like even when we get to the convent, there's no time for character development. I think that was my biggest problem, is all of her actions and choices felt random because I didn't feel like I knew her at all. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I would be watching this and The First Omen pretty closely because they are very similar in themes, and it's interesting that they're deciding to come out now. I mean, I kind of assumed we would get more pregnancy, bodily autonomy themes in horror, especially after the past couple of years. You know, any movie like that that's coming out now, I'm kind of looking to it as like, I'm looking for that topical thing. I'm looking for that, oh, here's that discussion about what's been happening in the world, what's been happening in society that is influencing this movie. Because we all know and agree that the horror genre does that exceptionally well among most of the genres of film. I feel like this one didn't bring anything new to the table. I feel like it could have. I feel like there was something there. If this was a Does This Offend You episode, I would definitely make a reach and talk about, you know, like the Catholic Church and its view on women and its extreme standards of women, amongst all the stories you hear in church, in a Catholic church. Not many of them are about women, and I think anybody could probably guess the most revered woman in the Bible at all is the Virgin Mary, which is an impossible standard to live up to, whether you believe in Immaculate Conception or not. To both have to be a mother and to do it without having sinned is impossible. So I feel like there was maybe a discussion that could have been had there, given that Sister Cecilia has apparently conceived this child but having remained chaste. I feel like there could have even been something in there about the science behind it, because you have these very devout men obviously looking for a miracle to happen, telling, and this is either gonna get some of you to click the subscribe button if you aren't already, or unclick it if you have been. But I'm just gonna say, having penetrative sex doesn't necessarily break your hymen. So in theory, you could have penetrative sex and your hymen still be intact and get pregnant. In September, it'll be 10 years of me on YouTube, and never once did I think I was going to have this discussion in a movie review. But within that, I did have a point within that, you know, it could be a critique on religious fanaticism and the desperation to believe a miracle so bad that you'll overlook potential scientific explanations for something or potential biological explanations for something. There were also some really strange moments where it seemed like they were trying to be comedic, like where they were trying to insert some comedy, but they were too few and far between, and it ended up just playing as really odd. Like, either commit to maybe being like a little sarcastically funny, because that was the vibe it was kind of giving off, but again, it didn't commit. It just felt weird and out of place with the amount that they put in. Sydney Sweeney's performance was fine. It was okay. She really didn't have me until the very end. And if you've seen the movie already, you probably know what scene I'm talking about. Like, it's like towards the end, you know? Like, that scene I was really like, whoa, like, I love this. And unfortunately, it was like one of the last scenes of the movie. Even the scares I wasn't really into. This is really unfortunate, but the trailer really had all of the scares in it. I think with the exception of like one. I'm being actually very serious. Maybe two. So overall, I felt like it was undercooked. Damn, and I feel like I was just talking about this with Imaginary. It was undercooked. It was underdeveloped. I feel like the discussion maybe they were trying to have, even if you're just going to take the stance of being critical of Catholicism in women, if you're going to be specifically critical about those things, that's still a really multifaceted and deep conversation that I just feel like, I'm not saying it can't be done, I just think it was all very like surface level, and you would have to do like a reach to like have a discussion about it based on this movie alone. I think the ending really shined, and unfortunately, you know, it took the entire movie to get to a sequence that I really, really enjoyed, and it ended up being the very last sequence of the movie. If you know, you know. This probably would be a decent movie to go watch with friends, like going in with the expectation to just like have a good time and it be like a casual thing. If you decide to go watch this, I wouldn't take it too seriously. It's not like a fun, goofy movie by any means, but I think don't expect like a super dark, like serious thing. So I will leave you with that. If you were deciding whether to watch Immaculate or not, if you've already seen it, let me know in the comments what you thought about it, especially that last sequence. It was the best part of the whole movie. If you want to check out my review of another new horror movie that just came out a couple weeks ago, you can check out my video on Imaginary. I'll see you early next week with another video, but like I'll see you a week from now to talk about The First Omen. It'll feel like deja vu a little bit. Until then, stay strange. Bye.